Hi, how's it going?
Hello.
Hope you're all well. Yay, Friday. Okay, so a couple announcements for news. As you can see on the board over here, registration for CTF closes tonight because we're very close to our capacity. I think on our way over today, we found out that we had like 73 signups. We budgeted for an absolute maximum of 80 people. So yeah, we're just gonna shut it down tonight. Please do so. Follow. How futuristic we are with our
Anyways,
To start things off,
the first story of the night is that someone from Checkpoint Security's mobile side, they discovered that there was a brand of malware called Rotten Fist that has been infecting phones for a number of years now, back to September 2016. And they think that it's on 5 million mobile devices, and it has been there for a long time. They, in this article, point out they think it was a watering hole kind of attack, and that this manufacturer didn't know, but it's hard to say at this point. But it's kind of fun on the way about. They've done this. It was kind of a dropper on these phones that kind of was dormant for a long time. And after a long enough period, they kind of grabbed different brands of malware and different things to put on the phone.
more than just like the so a lot of helps reduce the cost. Somewhere like Wi-Fi, security.
So the end goal, it was to be included in this sort of advertising network. And this figure is kind of astonishing to me. They think that it made $150,000 in the last 10 days when this article was published. And that is massive.
It's all just from like pop-up.
But it's using fairly common malware techniques of hiding in files and services that look like they should be there, but it's quite obviously malware at this point.
So the graph piece about something that's going to have a big impact this year's which is usually where security organizations have been working. It's typically dominated by for them to be a market opportunity to have their badass security teams to show off their exploits. Because they're told like you might be there representing the company, but you guys can keep all the money that you're rewarded for this. Some of the phone down prizes are pretty big. They also, a chance to attract salary bonuses too. Some of them if they pull this stuff off, because again, it's all advertising for these telcos and the organizations that they're a part of. Yeah, this year though, here is that the government has kind of said, if you're going to be doing this kind of bonus, you go like a third party, we're not allowed to do stuff. If that's the case, that basically means those teams won't be going to and it means that that's going to be a big hit in the market because some of them may seek employment elsewhere, like with the so it's going to have all kinds of weird like possibly researchers.
Yeah, you about hit it. The implications there will be kind of fun to look at over the next year. But, we or at least the grant does expect a lot of people to be running away from mainland.
Unfortunate.
So this article here was describing a Chrome extension that can sort of identify you by the way you actually type, and that's depending on sort of cadence and a few other metrics they can pull back from it. And this was an idea that was thrown around a few years back about continuous authentication, because they can generally pick up that when you leave the keyboard and that at all times just monitoring this cadence to see if it is still you. And we actually had a grad project in the previous year that was working on something similar to this with how do you say they did in that one?
It was interesting. Frequency over some time, and we can determine if it's you or not. That frequency is just arbitrary. It's just data to discover is that time you what if all of a sudden you stop typing and then you try like it's
Yeah.
Continuous authentication. It's spacing, processing, and they try to figure out who it is. Different Gmail, writing up an email, just type it a different. If I still have a browser, some web-based ID, something inside Chrome, frequency is going to be drastically different because it depends on the other one. It's very deliberate. Different tasks and
Anyways, so this one here is about more implications from GDPR as that starts to come into effect. Strangely, this one is the guys from the ICANN service. They basically maintain that giant database of WHOIS information. So when people register domains, all their sort of personal details are in fact on there if they're not using some kind of privacy mechanism. And they believe they're actually going to have to pull down most of this data and make sure it's properly redacted so they don't get sued to hell over the next year or two as this goes into effect. Because GDPR can theoretically hit them for 4% of their revenue for each instance of this one.
I mean, fraction, but I don't know how much they can charge for data protection regulations that they're rolling out. Yeah, people are worried this. One of those ones that have all of the like privacy. Kind of what is these days most where it is to get it.
Yeah. I would expect people to go through and just start scraping down this information in bulk basically in the next few days because they will want a nice setup so they can, but that really won't help them in the future when people are registering all these CNC domains.
Great news. So the last couple times there's before the breach was for Equifax look inside for this because so that's great.
I would hope. hope so. Yeah, they're moving forward with it.
That's good. That's good. Just prompt more openness about it anyways. So.
Yeah, it sets a great precedent.
Yeah.
So just some weird authentication bugs from this week here. This one was for Samba servers, where anyone who was actually first authenticated could change the passwords of anybody else registered on that system, which is bad on like a large administrative server.
I mean, I'm sure there's a huge vulnerability as an issue, but it's one that you can probably get around too much.
Just another weird authentication error from this week. This one was with a async SSH. I think this is a Python implementation of some asynchronous client for it. And this just failed to actually check if you authenticated before it started executing commands. So if you actually configured your client in the right way, it would just bypass all of that authentication process, and it would do it all anyways. Things that we should, expect to be reasonably like one-step check, make sure they authenticated, do something, rather than just have it all up in the same action. That's a weird bug. She is hard. Yeah.
Because so they found
Just keeping up with the cryptocurrency stories, Google finally said they've had enough of all these stupid ICO advertisements and all these coin offerings that keep popping up on all their services, because generally they're entirely scams and they really don't want to deal with that anymore. So I like this move by Google.
also, I believe, changes or from using cryptocurrency, like basically Bitcoin exchanges, trading. It's a pretty broad stroke.
Intel has finally sort of announced that they are coming out with their Spectre and Meltdown free chips sometime later this year. It's been a long time in the making, but we can finally stop worrying about them hopefully at that point.
Yeah.
I'll just say there. Pretty much. It'll be expensive.
This is awesome. Encrypt turned on their support for wildcards, so now you can have subdomains covered by the certificate from Encrypt. So like domain.com. But now you can have like anything.domain.com, so like www or fx or www. I don't know. You just have whatever .domain.com. And cover those subdomains.
I think that was the last real reason that a lot of people haven't been able to switch over to it yet. And now a lot of actually large corporations have the capability to do this for free, but it's probably going to run away.
And so they announced some kind of improvement to help for testing your cert and getting signed and stuff like that. I didn't read that part because I was too excited about the welcome. I'm sure whatever they did though was good. You should read that though if you're going to go use that service. I don't know what they changed, but I'm sure they made it more good.
And for the big story of the night, really, if we want to give this the big story.
So, .com that alleged so a whole bunch of low-level flaws in the this includes graphics on Horizon, which is that's awesome. Technical detail.
Lots of tweets, though. That's great.
Yeah, I like responses to it right here. Yeah, still slim on technical detail. Allegedly, they 4 hours before they disclose the test, which is not the standard way you do this kind of stuff. It's usually like 30 days, 90 days. However, it's shopped around to
Yeah. This one, just take in the fact that it's another set of branded involved that they made 4 logos for, and they even green screened a video with all the people that sort of found it so they can talk about it, and it's all really just a bit of a faff.
sketchy. So the firm that did all this research has only been around for about a year. And they apparently shorting stuff. You figure out a way to like profit. They knew that after they was going to take. So to theorize that maybe this was all bullshit with the goal of trying to make money off of short stuff because something recently happened with Intel, like saw the impact.
All very sketchy from what I've seen so far. There hasn't been a single registered CVE for any of these phones. I don't know if that's changed now, but that's not really a good sign that any of these have been made official or that technical details have been at all supplied, because they've allegedly gone public now, and there's no detail. That were new vulnerabilities and not ones based on the old
Yeah, so the other like their most level of access on the system. It'll be the kind of dangerous thing is if you that would be the one.
So the quote here at the bottom from the Trail of Bits researcher says that, yeah, it's a real security issue, but for it to work, as Nick was saying, you have to already be administrator on that local target. And then from a like CVSS, the scoring for these kind of vulnerabilities, that puts it in a fairly, like, that's not a very dangerous area to be in. If you can't do it remotely, you have to be authenticated and have that level of access. It's not as scary as they claim it to be.
They reported that
Stations.
yeah,
Which is a total.
So we jump to Linus Torvalds' response to this one. And, yeah.
This is his quote.
Right at the bottom. When was the last time you saw a security advisory that was basically, if you replace the BIOS of the CPU microcode with an evil version, you might have a security problem? So, and as usual, this raises all kinds of ethical debates about the right way to do this. the 24-hour notice to AMD is a bit of a dick move by any standard. I still do like the 90-day disclosure window that things like Project Zero do. That's pretty fair if they have something serious they want to release. And branded phones, we're tired of it. One good one. I think we got one more.
Oh, yeah, this is just.
Oh, he's died.
Yeah, they just announced that. Adrian Lemon, who's the person who allegedly reported Chelsea Manning, right?
Yep.
They just started announcing.
Yeah. Not suspicious yet, but there's no real details to go off of.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Anything else?
Well, that's yeah. Then I think that's it for news. And of course, we have Brian and Colin, I believe, doing a talk on React or Node.js. One of them. All right.